What's good, y'all? You dub back here again, here in 2019. Let's get it. Now, a few months ago, I had started and I had come up with, because I love DC and Marvel lore and the history of it, but I was like, shoot, let me come. Since everybody want to do their own universe, like there's so many, in Marvel, there seems to be an infinite amount in the multiverse. There's all these different Earths and whatnot. Let me do my own Earth. And a few of the Earths I wanted, like the names of the Earths, were taken, so I was like, screw it. Fuck it. Let me just do Earth-1000. All right. That doesn't seem like a name that's taken, so we're just gonna go with it. And this would be part one. I'm not even sure if I finished part two, but yeah, you'll see that this is jam packed with the timeline that I have. Um, I could later go in more of how these characters would be and how they would differ, but that's a whole other thing. This is just the chronology thus far of the universe that I have. And like I said, this is part one. Part two, maybe part three will come later. First of all, Earth begins at 10,000 BC. In this version, there are no Eternals, no Deviants, or mutants, and no celestial hosts. Okay, no manipulation of the species, and we're not starting millions of years ago. We're just starting um, from our era, like 12,000 years ago. Okay, in this one, Cain kills his brother Abel, just like in the Bible, just like in the biblical reference. In order to avoid divine judgment, he sells his soul to Mephisto. Now and he becomes the immortal Ghost Rider. Now, this is playing off of Cain was supposed to get the mark of something that marked him. We don't exactly know what that was in biblical terms, but Cain's supposed to be marked. This instance, you know how Mephisto gets down. If you know anything about Johnny Blaze with Ghost Rider, you know how the dealings he's done with Doctor Stephen Strange. This is what you kind of have here. So he becomes the Ghost Rider, the immortal Ghost Rider. Okay, to act as an avenger for his grave sin of fratricide, of killing his brother. Okay, so we have the Ghost Rider way back in the day, like 9,000, 8,000 years ago. Okay. Apocalypse was an Egyptian priest. Y'all know who Apocalypse is. But this time he obviously does not have the celestial tech to benefit from. He was an Egyptian priest who struck a pact with Set in 3000 BC. So this is jumping way down the line. Some lost history, but we don't really care at this point. We can go back and examine that time period if necessary. But Set. Now, Set is one of the Egyptian gods. Okay, Set is believed the brother of Osiris. Forget. I believe he's the god of death, but don't quote me on that. He's a prominent god. It's been a little while since I've studied Egyptian mythology. Anyways, he strikes a pact with Set. We see a trend here of people making deals with deities. Uh, he became the God Emperor. God Emperor. Okay, kind of giving paying homage to God Emperor Doom, but he took a bride from Mesopotamia who possessed massive psychic power and telepathy, telekinesis, clairvoyance, prophecy, and speaking hundreds of languages. This lady's powerful as hell. They had a daughter who became host to the Phoenix Force and reigns over the Egyptian Empire for 2 millennia. so so it lasts for like till year 1,000. Their powerful daughter became, you could say, that, at least on this planet, the first host of the Phoenix Force. Stupidly powerful. 1000 BC, Heracles is born. Okay, version of Hercules, the Greek version of Hercules, if you will, and has his adventures on Earth, ascending to Olympus. We're talking about like Jason the Gold Fleet, different adventures that you hear in Greek mythology. Pretty much is what's going down with Heracles. He is ascending to Olympus into godhood after 3 centuries as king of Thebes. So till about 700 BC, king of Thebes, which in some versions go along with who he was. During and then so obviously Heracles is become a god by the time if and when he has dealings with the Avengers and them. During the Han Dynasty, going into Chinese history, Shang Zhao XAO is born. He learns all the sacred knowledge of the Tao, going into, if you know, Taoism and such. He travels to Japan and studies Shintoism. He then travels to India with his knowledge of chi, ki, and chakra. Chi going in, you could probably guess where he's coming from, but chi, the internal, then ki, the Japanese variant, and then chakra. We see this in Avatar: The Last Airbender, as well as it's their own version of Naruto. So chakra. He becomes the immortal Iron Fist, and is acknowledged as a Buddha by the Tibetan monks. So we have two immortals thus far. The Iron Fist travels the world for millennia, protecting the innocent. Iron Fist Shang Zhao. After the fall of Rome, so we're skipping once again ahead in time. The red-headed Thor. So I'm taking it back to the actual mythological roots. We ain't talking no yellow hair. We did red-headed Thor, fiery personality and all that stuff. Red-headed Thor would pop up in various parts of Europe prior to the dawn of the Viking Age. He did many deeds. So it kind of coincides with how he's perceived with Norse mythology. Donatello, this is again jumping a few centuries, or several centuries probably at this point. Donatello is the last of the mythical Knights Templar. Donatello, if you know who the artist was. And yes, I know the names were used in TMNT, okay, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but this is the artist. This is playing off of a plot line of what's called Shield. Like it's a whole comic book that you would have to know what it's going into. But in the brief, there are these people who I think it's Immortal City or something like that. It's a pretty insane read, if you will. It's a great comic. The Mythical Knights Templar, because of secret training. Michelangelo, another artist, finds his book of knowledge, forms the Illuminati with Raphael and Leonardo da Vinci, two more artists. And da Vinci, so pretty much Donatello dies and leaves his book of secrets. Michelangelo finds it and he forms the Illuminati with Raphael and Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci discovers a serum for extended life. So while we're not talking immortality, we're talking for a long period of time, potentially thousands of years. The Illuminati pull strings behind the scenes to advance the world, so they're advancing scientifically, technologically, and such. Johannes Kepler, Sir Isaac Newton, Galileo Galilei, Antoine Lavoisier, uh, Gregor Mendel, Dmitri Mendeleev, Albert Einstein all joined their ranks. So throughout the centuries, these different phenomenal scientists and legends become members of the Illuminati. Okay, so it's more of a benign group than a malign group. Mr. Sinister is born in NYC, New York City, in the early 19th century to a very wealthy family. Now, if you know the X-Men and such, you know Mr. Sinister. If not, look him up because the dude, there are videos and stuff done on him. You can look up comics explaining stuff. But Mr. Sinister, he's a manipulative dude. Dude manipulates genes and such. He gains vast knowledge of genetics. He manipulates his own, granting near immortality. Hey, what can you say? His Marvel and immortality works. Superhuman strength, speed, reflexes, vision, hearing, and telekinesis. He pushes for eugenics movement, for the eugenics movement and social Darwinism. And for those who don't know the eugenics movement and social Darwinism, you can look it up. But the eugenics movement, it means that only certain people groups deserve to really live. sterilize the, you know, make sure like the eugenics movement affected blacks, for some versions affected gays, and different groups of differing beliefs. They did not agree with that. You had in Nazi Germany, you had that form of eugenics movement. The originator of Planned Parenthood was Margaret Sanger. She had that version of Planned Parenthood. Look it up. It's vital knowledge to know. And social Darwinism. Social Darwinism says that this is a survival of the fittest, but amped. It's an amped survival of the fittest. It's not the natural survival of the fittest, which is a deeper conversation that for another time. James Howlett. Now y'all know who James Howlett is. Wolverine Logan. That's who we talking about. Is born in 1838 as a Cajun to Canadian father and Southern Belle mother in Louisiana. He enlisted in the Confederate forces during the Civil War. He fought in the Battle of Antietam. Okay. He was gravely injured from cannon fire. He received an extremely high dosage of morphine, which triggered an aggressive healing factor. Now, remember, there are no mutants in this world, but that doesn't mean that people can't develop certain powers and abilities because it's Marvel. Over his life, Howlett becomes a grandmaster of kung fu, karate, boxing, ninjutsu, and judo. During World War One, Howlett underwent an experiment by the U.S. Army, so obviously Howlett has his healing factors has allowed him to stay in his prime and stay living, okay, for an extended amount of time, which we know Wolverine does. Experiment by the U.S. Army on bone density. He was capable of lessening and hardening his mass at will and grew bone claws from the back of his hand, which was his original state before his adamantium. As we kind of see with Victor Creed, although his was, I believe, in his claws. Talking about Sabretooth. By World War II, he developed superhuman smell, hearing, sight, agility, and tracking. So he fought World War II as well. So Wolverine being through all them conflicts, boy. Nick Fury is a sergeant during World War II who's a former Olympic athlete. He's tasked because of his immense skill in combat, grasp of strategy, and genius level intellect with a secret operations squad known as SHIELD. Wolverine James Howlett. Namor the Submariner, who's an Atlantean prince and allied of the Allied forces. So we're still going along with Namor and how he rocks. Captain America Steve Rogers, a young man who Mr. Sinister experimented on and to see the limits of humanity physically. Bucky Barnes, an expert marksman and explosives expert, and Jim Hammond, an android created by Howard Stark. So Howard Stark's back in World War II. With the ability to combust and fly. So pretty much the original Human Torch. Okay. So we got the original, I believe it was the Invader Squad going on as members of S.H.I.E.L.D. Charles Xavier meets Magneto at Yale in 1952. They become great friends. Charles uses his great intellect to enhance his mental prowess to telepathy. Magneto develops mastery over electromagnetism after devising a radical theory. And then this is the age, come on, this is the 50s, the age of sci-fi and crazy experimentation. And we're talking about an advanced world here because of the Illuminati. So there you go. In 1956, Charles meets another very powerful telepath, Emma Frost. They get married. Magneto meets Mystique, a shapeshifter, after after 2 years. Oh, after 2 years, excuse me, that Charles and Emma Frost got married. My bad. My bad. Sometimes what you know, you could make it a little bit more difficult to read. But anyways, Magneto meets Mystique, a shapeshifter, because of fluid chromosomes in 1960. They marry 3 years later. So we don't have the beef with the X-Men versus the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and all that. We don't have a beef between Charles and Magneto. Magneto and Charles are cool. All right. Reed Richards marries Susan Storm in 1961. So around the time of Charles Xavier and Magneto, kind of around the time that the Fantastic Four did pop up on the scene. They, alongside Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, perform an experimental space voyage for NASA to Mars in 1963. They return in 65, so 2 years out, which means that their tech is clearly more advanced with space travel than ours. Anyways, Mr. Fantastic developed total control over his molecular structure. The Invisible Woman developed complete control of gravity and density within a 3-mile radius. Yeah, she's hacks. The Thing grew to 8 feet tall and developed superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability, and reaction time. This time, he's the Thing, but he doesn't exactly have the Rock kind of body build, but he looks different. Okay, for one, he's 8 feet tall. People ain't usually 8 feet tall. The Human Torch developed the ability to amp up his metabolism to allow superhuman speed, flight, and intense heat, which means that he could eventually kill himself if he burns out too much, though. So he has to be very careful. In 1966, Victor Von Doom becomes the monarch of Latveria. He developed a suit of armor to enhance channeling mystical energies, which plays homage to the ancestry of magical abilities that Von Doom has, although he how to say this, he relies on science more, science and tech in the Marvel 616 universe. In this one, Von Doom uses a suit to do magic, and he's a magic-oriented wielder. Okay, Doctor Doom, the Mage, because Doctor Doom has the potential to become Sorcerer Supreme in the Marvel 616 universe. 1968, Dr. Stephen Strange grows tired of the limitations of traditional Western medicine. He moves to the Louisiana Bayou and studies under Brother Voodoo, Jericho Drum, shout out, for a year. He travels to Britain and studies under Merlin, who's still living and kicking, for another year. Merlin, we're talking about from King Arthur, Morgan Le Fay, and all that. He travels, he trains as an apprentice in the martial arts and in chi control with Iron Fist for 6 months. Iron Fist introduces Strange to the Ancient One, a Korean master of Eastern mysticism. Stephen learns for another 2 years and becomes a Sorcerer Supreme. So we actually have an entire process as to why Doctor Strange becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. In 1970, Tony Stark grows sympathetic to the anti-war movement. We're talking about the Vietnam conflict, okay? And builds a suit of armor as a deterrent to both the U.S. and the Viet Cong, thus ending the Vietnam conflict. So pretty much Tony Stark becomes Iron Man and pulls a shank and ends the Vietnam conflict / Vietnam War. Woo! He doesn't get trapped in some jungle or cave in the desert. No. He's like, screw this. Innocent men are dying. Innocent people are dying. This needs to stop. I'm going to build a weapon of potential mass destruction to stop you. I'm going to become a one-man army and attack either side if you don't stop. You can say, well, the military, yeah, you have a weapon that can destroy armies. Pull out. This needs to end. So that war ends 5 years prior. Okay, Vietnam conflict ends 5 years prior. 1973, defense attorney Matt Murdock is tracing down a lead. At this point, he's not blind. okay, into a corrupt corporation. He gets exposed to radioactive waste, leaving him hospitalized for 6 months. He becomes blind but develops superhuman radar hearing, superhuman smell, unparalleled sense of balance, and heightened tactile capacities. The ability to touch is far heightened. You can sense a lot of things with that. He trains under a blind master of multiple martial arts, Stick. For 3 years, he falls in love with the assassin Electra, who is Stick's former student. They marry in 1978. Daredevil and Elektra protect the streets of NYC. So beyond Hell's Kitchen, you got Daredevil and Elektra. Look out, all who would do harm to New York City. In 1976, Dr. Bruce Banner is performing top secret gamma, X-ray, and ultraviolet testing for the CIA because it's the CIA. He accidentally gets locked into a containment field. He survives, develops multiple personality disorder. He survived the whole encounter, develops multiple personality disorder, and has 4 different Incredible Hulk personas as a result. So this is an actual explanation as to why you got Gray Hulk, Savage Hulk, Professor Hulk, and who knows which other one will come out. 1977, T'Challa takes over as King of Wakanda. He develops a unique titanium, uranium, and steel alloy, becoming the Black Panther. So in this version, you don't have vibranium, but T'Challa is just extraordinarily intelligent, like he is in the main Marvel 616 universe, and he develops that and becomes Black Panther to protect his people and protect the world. 1978, Peter Parker is gaining his doctorate at Columbia University. He's working under Dr. Connors, who you will know to be the guy who will become Lizard in the Marvel 616 universe. Dr. Connors, who is experimenting on reptiles, mollusks, and arachnids. Peter gets bitten, and reptiles, y'all know what those are: snakes, turtles, alligators, all of them. Mollusks, which are octopuses, squids, and such, and arachnids, spiders, um, scorpions. Believe well, lobsters are crustaceans, but like spiders and scorpions. Peter gets bitten by the test spider and develops superhuman strength, speed, durability, agility, reaction time, and the ability to grow 2 limbs from his spine. So 2 limbs out of his back. Okay, so it's a 6-arm dude, and two from his back. Okay, two from directly from his back, like from the sides near like the kidneys, and 2 from out directly from his spine. So he's 8 arms, kind of like an actual arachnid. Peter later hones his powers to produce an organic webbing from excessive fatty tissue. Alright, so Peter can produce webbing that he doesn't need cartridges and such. At first, he doesn't go around with webbing, and then he, after a while, develops the skill to shoot webbing. But obviously, he'll be able to run out of it if he overuses it. 1981, former inmate Luke Cage works at a power plant. He gets hit by massive voltage. He survives and is granted superhuman strength, durability, thought at lightning speed, which is awesome, ability to generate electricity, and extreme acceleration. So this is a completely different version of Luke Cage than Mr. Bulletproof Man. In this version, super strength, super durability, pretty similar to what he has. He can think at lightning speed, which you would say, well, doesn't our minds think? No, he's all his thoughts. He can analyze something like that, bro. And he has the ability to generate lightning and extreme acceleration. He can run fast because and move quickly because of his lightning. So it's like Black Lightning meets Luke Cage, bro. He's an amp to Luke Cage. Imagine that. He just doesn't have bulletproof skin. In 1986, Valeria Richards is regarded as the most intelligent person on the planet. This is the daughter of Reed Richards and Susan Richards. Okay, while Franklin Richards, her brother, can manipulate the world around him on a subatomic level. Spider-Man also marries Mary Jane Watson this year. Okay, 1983. Charles Xavier alongside Emma Frost, Magneto, Mystique, and Wolverine. So he's come and over the years become friends with them. Wolverine's still kicking strong. They open the Xavier School for the Gifted. Dr. Hank McCoy is a genius, but doesn't know how to control his physical prowess, which is going back to the original first class, the actual first class of the X Men, not that movie that uh, it bombed, and not in a good way. Hank operates, oh no, Scott Summers, who you know as Hank McCoy's Beast. Okay, Scott Summers, who you know as Cyclops, has a degenerative retina, so his eye is breaking down on him. Hank McCoy, Hank, operates on him and it unlocks supervision, ultraviolet vision, infrared vision, and microscopic vision. So in this version, he doesn't have eyes that open up to a portal to another extra dimensional energy. Come on, Marvel, y'all crazy with that shit. Y'all crazy as hell. Jean Grey, who y'all know, is a model who is schizophrenic but ridiculously intelligent. She loves Scott and learns to harness the voices in her head, along with allowing for telekinesis. Excuse me. So she becomes a very powerful telekinetic force. Warren Worthington III, who you'll know as Angel, via psychedelics perceives, the world on a molecular level, thus discovering how to fly. Just go with it. Bobby Drake develops a serum for immunity to cold and temperature control. So pretty much how he does as Iceman. But this one he is actually more of a scientific based explanation. In 1985, Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Doom kill each other in a duel in San Francisco. Loki and Set look to conquer the world. Nick Fury forms the Avengers, comprised of Captain America, who's still kicking, Iron Man, Thor, Heracles. So Heracles and Thor come back because Loki and Set are wilding out here. Hulk, Spider Man, and Spider Man, excuse me. So you got Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Heracles, Hulk, and Spider Man. What a lineup, y'all. What a lineup. Dr. Hank Pym discovers the realm of relativity and aids the Avengers in trapping Loki and Set. So he's shout out to the homage of the original, the true Ant-Man and Goliath. But this time he's not acting. Hank Pym isn't acting as Ant-Man, at least not yet. But he helps the Avengers out and forming a way to deal with Loki and Set, because let's be honest, Loki and Set are powerful as hell. Now, while you can say, well, Thor and Heracles, yeah, they can handle them, but Set, both of them are magic users, so magic users present a slew of problems, and you got to figure out how to deal with them even after you defeat them. In 1986, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Doctor Strange, and Iron Fist formed the Defenders in response to the Avengers. The Avengers deal with planetary threats. The Defenders deal with mystical threats. So it's the mystical Avengers pretty much is this version of the Defenders, and it makes sense considering Loki and Set. In 1990, Riri Williams, if you know Riri Williams, she's Ironheart. She deals with Tony Stark, Iron Man. Riri Williams graduates from MIT and develops Ironheart Technologies to become the main rival of Stark Global. So in this version, she's more distant from Tony, at least at first. Miles Morales breaks into Parker International and steals a prototype power suit. So he doesn't actually have the Spider-Man powers, but he has a suit of power. You can think of something like the Iron Spider suit. Amadeus Cho, who totally awesome Hulk and the protege, if you will, of Bruce Banner. Amadeus Cho gets put into the presidential office after Thunderbolt Ross is assassinated. All right, so there's a lot of history. So Amadeus Cho becomes president. Okay, Thunderbolt Ross, the arch nemesis of Hulk for many years, who's also became the Red Hulk, the Rogue. So in this version, we don't get Rogue, but we get an assassination as president. So imagine Thunderbolt Ross as president. Yeah. 1991, Danny Rand has the powers of the Ghost Rider passed on to him and trains under the Iron Fist. This is huge. All right, so Danny Rand, who's the Iron Fist that we know of currently in the Marvel 616 universe. So apparently something happens to Kane as the Ghost Rider. Even though he's immortal, I guess in a battle he dies, and the powers are passed on to him. And he trains under Shang Zhao as an Iron Fist. So he's gonna get the best of both worlds. Okay, he's gonna get chi control like the Iron Fist, and he's gonna be Ghost Rider, which is badass. And Johnny Blaze, who's I think true Ghost Rider, in this version, he outwits Mephisto and becomes the King of Hell, which is kind of what went on in their recent story arc from last year, I believe, in Marvel Comics, which is crazy. So Johnny Blaze is the King of Hell. That's kind of badass. 1995, X Factor is formed by Cyclops, which, if you know X Factor, you know the X-Men. X Factor was a different group. It's comprised of Beast, Jean Grey, Iceman, Angel, Havoc, who's the brother of Cyclops, has his own abilities. Uh, Vulcan, and Juggernaut. Okay, Havoc is Cyclops' bro, alongside Vulcan. Havoc can, in this version, can control sound waves. Vulcan can generate pretty much infrared energy. And Juggernaut is Kane Marco, half bro of Charles Xavier. He's the world's strongest man. Y'all know the world's strongest man competition. He's the strongest man in the world. And channels mystical energy that makes him nearly indestructible. So playing off of the original Juggernaut. 1996, Wolverine launches the X-Men. Storm manipulates weather. Kurt Wagner, who's Nightcrawler, teleports, and Colossus has metal skin. So they're pretty similar to what they were initially. And last but not least, Gambit. He has kinetic energy, and Rogue matter. She does matter absorption. So it's a little bit different from how her powers work in the Marvel 616 universe. It's similar but different to a Kevin Levin and the Absorbing Man. Okay, she absorbs matter, but it makes her extraordinarily powerful. So she has like a hybrid version of what she has. So like I said, that X-Men lineup, this would be like the Uncanny X-Men, is Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Gambit, and Rogue. And that is the end. No, it's long, but that is the end of the part one of my chronology of Earth-1000. A lot of material that I came up with, a lot of variation. That took a lot of time and thought. Like, definitely longer than this video. Unexpected Wonder, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts. Part 2 will come out sometime. And DC, I hope to do, but whoo, DC is a problem, bro. DC is rough and tough. That's going to be tough to do, but let me know. Let me know if y'all like this. Let me know what your thoughts. How would your Marvel universe be? Hey, there's nearly endless possibilities. All right, y'all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Peace.